First off, let's give a shout out to our sponsor, Balls. Can you read that? It says Balls.
Gotta hydrate.
I'm just really parched underneath all these lights. It's just a familiar feeling.
It's tough. Glad you powdered. Glad you lightly powdered.
Did you?
No.
We got a note from our manager. Hello, Jeremy Katz. A couple years back. Well, Yogi got a note saying he needed to lightly powder. And then I got a note saying I was too oily on camera. So I lightly powdered for today's session. Did you?
No, but the fun part is when I got that after a self-tape audition, I didn't know what he was talking about. I was like, lightly powdered? Like, what does that even mean? Because I had never powdered. Early in my career, we didn't ever have makeup where I was working at the time. It was a smaller network subsidiary of Fox. And then when I elevated and went to ESPN or the Pac-12 networks, I understood the makeup game. So now I understand how to lightly powder. I haven't for today. It's very natural outside. I like the natural look on this show. Because when you travel, do you lightly powder? I don't.
I do. Well, I'm always on camera, so even when I'm doing IG stories.
Totally. It's part of your deal. I get it.
I mean, I consider myself like a brand that goes 24/7.
Yeah. Always on.
Well, it's not about on. It's just like
channel.
I'm always Ravi around the world.
Well, that's good.
And sometimes I'm like,
not anybody
I'm
else.
like a little heightened version. Sometimes a little bit more like subdued. Anyway, last week we talked about an interesting story when we were both in Santiago, Chile, and something that we learned. And today I think that it's a really interesting experiment for us to, you know, bareback on that. What's that called? Not bareback. To whistle off that back. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if like piggyback. To piggyback on last week, Yogi was talking about how he stayed in a hostel. And I was talking about how I stayed in a 5-star. And here I am now at what we learned last week is the retreat.
Thank you. Welcome.
First trip you ever remember going on with me? Go.
First trip I ever remember going on with you. Solo, I would say when we went to Europe. Now, I asked Robbie to go on multiple trips, and he would say, no, I want to go by myself, but if you want to come for a latte, you can join me. Thanks for that. Wasn't very nice. Regardless, we ended up going to Biarritz and San Sebastian, and I picked you up in a beautiful, stylish camper van. And that is where the bliss and the joy and the fun, very calm Robbie Roth showed up. We slept in the van, we tucked in the van, we surfed in the van, we enjoyed ourselves in the van, and we began our traveling relationship in the van.
That's what really began Two Bros, One Trip. And you know, it was really hard for me.
We have a clip.
I just don't know if I can do van life. It's intense. It's hard for me because, like, I really like to spread out in my bed. I really like I do like pampering. You know, granted, we don't get, like, massages all the time, but I do like the pampering of the maid that cleans up the room. I do like that I have a freshly made bed. You know, I even enjoy elements of like an Airbnb. I'll go to an Airbnb. I'll do an Airbnb. I'll do a gay Airbnb, a Mr. B&B. But where you crossed the line with me, and I'm gonna get to your answer, where you crossed the line with me was hostel and van. And, you know, I think that I put up a little bit of a, is this for real? And then I went to a, well, this will be great content, into a dropping in, realizing that this is gonna be a journey. And we did it for a few days when we went to Spain and France, and then we did it for 10 days when we went to New Zealand. Van life. And I gotta tell you, van life is really just like roughing it to the max.
To the max, totally. To the max? Roughing it to the max would be like sleeping underneath a tree.
Okay, so in New Zealand, we slept on top of the car.
And it popped up, and it was pretty brilliant.
And it was wet all the time. It was always wet.
Well, you sat in the middle, so you weren't necessarily...
And the birds were so loud.
So beautiful to wake up to birds. So what's your tip?
Just the tip. My tip is to embrace the uncomfortable.
I like that. My tip, if you're driving in a van, is to have good music, roll the windows down. When you go to bed, enjoy the smell sounds. You know you're not going to get the greatest sleep of all time, but once you settle in, remember that day we slept right next to the water? Just smell it right now. We made a little fire that I didn't really do a good job of. You got to eat, got to hang, got to talk. I thought it was beautiful. I can't wait at some point in my life to hopefully have the ability to get a van, or if you want to donate one, I'll take it.
Granted, that same trip where we did the van life, we also did a bougie hotel, and we did a gay version of Airbnb, a Mr. B&B. And so what were those experiences like for you?
They were cool. I mean, who doesn't like a bougie hotel? I'm cool with it, but I'm just saying on a trip internationally, exploring the world, like, feel it. And for me, that is via a van most of the time.
Yeah, but you can feel it. You can feel it during the day and then, like, get some really good sleep at night.
That's a good point. That's well said. Okay, well, that led us to this trip. This one's a little different than life in a van in France and or Spain. We like to call it around here, the retreat with Ravi around the world. Our guest, part Manny, obvious brother, family, brother-in-law, uncle, lots going on here in Southern California.
This was supposed to be a 2-weeker. I was gonna come out during the peak of the COVID-19 and I was gonna help you move. And the day that I landed, you said, oh, by the way, we're not moving for another month past when you thought you were moving. And then as the days went on, we learned more about Corona and...
No one would be moving for a while.
So what started as 2 weeks looks more like 2 months. And I'm sharing a room with your 5-year-old.
What's that like?
You know, I feel like last year in general was a big year of me learning patience. But this year it's patience on a whole new level. I don't know, I mean, it's great. It's my nephew. Like, I love hanging out with him. I just, you know, there's just like a whole, like, we're always on top of each other. And it's great. But even with you, like, I can take you in, like, you know, our longest trip was what, 10 days? Tack on 1 or 2 in the front and the back. This is the longest, and this is great, but I think that we both have our moments where we need solo time.
I think everyone needs solo time. I think that's the best part of traveling. For a lot of travelers I hear from, they're like, how can you travel by yourself? And prior to being engaged or married or trip with Ravi, I would always and only go on myself. Even on our first trip together, I went by myself for a week and then met up with you. And I think that's the greatest way to learn about the world, is to get out there by yourself. It may seem scary. There's elements of that I understand, that you may feel unsafe. There's unpredictability around every corner, but that's the fun. Because when you're not in your comfort zone, you're out of it. And when you're traveling, you can't speak the language, you don't know the food, you don't know what's around the corner. Like, there is an element of growth that happens with sheer curiosity, as you know. So, yeah, totally different world now as a traveler, but I do think that those experiences as individuals have helped me become one that can live with you now and my family. But yeah, as an individual solo traveler, there are moments where I want to take a walk by myself, and luckily my family lets me go do that.
I personally love exploring a city by myself. My one downfall in that is that I'm a little heavy-handed with the packing.
He knows my rule.
Carry what you bring.
If you pack it, you carry it. I tell that to our 5-year-old, to whoever.
And we all know now that if I'm traveling with Yogi, I'm probably going to walk 24 miles in a day.
Don't carry a lot.
And because we actually did that in Paris. And make sure the suitcase has 4 wheels. 4-wheel drive.
Fair. Totally fair.
All right.
Well, look, I think our experience, my family, has really enjoyed having you here. You've been here, what, 3 weeks?
Yep.
We can't even imagine life without Ravi. And there was a joke circulating the internet from some of my friends that was like, during a quarantine, everybody needs a Ravi around the world, which would be amazing if we could just dub you, and we'd have you here all the time. But you're not going anywhere soon.
And I'm not dating anyone, clearly.
Clearly. So,
but I am single.
Us.
I'm single. For those who are watching, I can do virtual dates. I can lock the child out of my room, and we can do, like, you know,
none of that stuff.
Dates, video dates, those kind of dates.
All right. Well, speaking of dates, this has been a fun one. And I've got one with the NFL Draft, and you can check out our new Pac-12 Networks podcast called Pac-12 Perspective, wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm going to go do that.
Alright, you do that. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment below. Give a little bump up, double tap, give us some love. Let us know what you want to hear more about. Every week we're gonna delve, I love delve. We're gonna delve into a tip, an experience, and relive some of our illustrious travels. And you know what? Even though we can't go anywhere, we're gonna probably have a lot of stories from here. So please.
I tell our 5-year-old all the time when he wants to travel because he wants to go back to Bali so much. I say, you just gotta close your eyes. You can go there anytime you want.
Okay. Well, and yeah, you gotta go all the way in. All the way in so it's dark.
Oh.
Okay, that's good. You're becoming an influencer.